Hey guys, tonight we are leaving behind the marble columns and sunny villas of the Mediterranean. We are heading north, far away from the comforts of Rome, to the frozen, muddy, and wind-battered edge of the known world. We are going to explore the gritty reality of life in a Roman legion during winter, a life of scratchy wool, cold toes, and the endless struggle to stay warm in a tent made of leather. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world, to drift off into the past. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, pull the blanket up a little higher, you're going to want it for this one, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 122 AD. The good news? You're alive. The bad news? You are a legionary stationed on the northernmost frontier of the Roman Empire, in the province of Britannia, and the fire in your tent has just gone out. You don't wake up because you are rested. You wake up because the cold has found a way through your heavy wool blanket. It starts at your feet, a creeping numbness that works its way up your shins and settles deep in your bones. You're lying on a straw mat that is more dust than straw, separated from the frozen ground by only a few inches of packed earth, and a leather tent floor that has seen better decades. The air inside the tent is heavy and still. It is pitch black, the kind of absolute darkness you only find when you're miles away from civilization. You take a breath, and you can feel the moisture in the air crystallizing in your nose. The air tastes metallic, a mix of cold iron, damp leather, and the lingering stale smoke from the charcoal brazier that died hours ago. You are not alone. You are never alone in the Legion. You are sleeping in a contubernium tent, a leather shelter roughly 10 feet by 10 feet, which you share with 7 other men. You can hear them sleeping around you, the rhythmic, congested snoring of the man to your left, the rustle of wool as someone shifts, trying to find a comfortable spot on the hard ground, the quiet muttering of someone dreaming about being back in Italy, where the sun actually shines. The smell is intimate. It is the scent of 8 men who haven't had a proper bath in weeks, because the water in the aqueduct is frozen. It smells of unwashed wool, old sweat, lanolin and garlic. The Romans love garlic. They believe it gives them strength. Right now, in this confined space, it just gives the air a pungent, savoury heaviness. You shift your weight and your shoulder pops. The ground is unforgiving. You are wearing your tunic, a coarse, undyed wool garment that reaches your knees. It scratches your skin, but you've stopped noticing the itch months ago. You're also wearing your focal, a woolen scarf wrapped tight around your neck to prevent the armour from chafing. But right now, it's just a desperate attempt to keep your throat warm. Outside, the wind is howling. It isn't a gentle breeze. It is a gale blowing down from the Scottish Highlands, screaming across the open moors, carrying sleet and snow. It hits the side of the leather tent with a sound like a whip crack, snap, snap, snap. The leather groans under the pressure. You watch the tent pole in the centre of the darkness. You can hear it creaking, swaying slightly. You pray to Jupiter that the pegs hold. If the tent blows down, you will be exposed to a darkness that doesn't just make you shiver, it kills you. This is the reality of the Pax Romana. You signed up for glory. The recruiter told you about the might of Rome, the golden eagles, the triumph of civilization. He didn't mention that 90% of your career would involve shivering in a muddy field in northern England, wondering if your toes are still attached. You decide to get up. Staying in bed is pointless. The cold has won. You push the blanket aside, a heavy, scratchy thing issued by the quartermaster, and sit up. The air hits your face like a slap. You fumble in the dark for your caligae, the famous Roman military sandals in winter. This is one of the great ironies of the Roman military machine. You are the most advanced fighting force on earth, yet your standard issue footwear is an open sandal with hobnailed soles. They are great for marching on stone roads in the Mediterranean. They are terrible for standing in freezing mud in Britannia. You shove your feet into them. Thankfully, you have stuffed them with wool socks, udons. You wear 2 pairs. It feels like walking on pillows, but at least your toes aren't touching the frozen leather directly. You stand up, hunched over because the tent roof is low. You have to be careful not to step on your tent mates. You navigate the tangle of limbs and equipment by memory. You find the flap of the tent. The leather is stiff with frost. You have to use your shoulder to shove it open. You step outside. The wind hits you instantly, cutting through your tunic as if it isn't even there. The world is grey. The sun hasn't risen yet, but the sky is lightening into a bruised charcoal colour. You're in a marching camp. Rows and rows of identical leather tents stretch out in perfect geometric precision. The Romans are obsessed with order. Even here, at the edge of the world, where nature is chaotic and wild, the camp is a perfect grid. The ground beneath your feet is crunchy. The mud has frozen solid overnight. It is rutted with the tracks of carts and the hobnails of thousands of soldiers. You walk carefully. Slipping here means landing on frozen earth, which is about as forgiving as concrete. You look toward the perimeter. A wooden palisade surrounds the camp, sharpened stakes driven into the ground. Beyond that, a ditch, and beyond that, mist. Thick, rolling white mist that obscures the hills. You can't see the enemy, but you know they are out there. The locals, the Britons, the people who look at your nice straight roads and your square forts and wonder why you don't just go home. You wrap your arms around yourself, tucking your hands into your armpits for warmth. You can see your breath puffing out in white clouds, vanishing instantly in the wind. You head toward the latrines. Let's talk about the Roman latrine. It is a marvel of engineering usually, a communal bench with holes cut into it, positioned over a trench of running water. But out here, in a temporary winter camp, the plumbing is rustic. It is a long ditch. There is no running water to wash the waste away. There is just the cold, the smell, and a row of shivering men sitting side by side, united in misery. You take your place. The wood of the bench is covered in frost. Sitting down is a test of willpower. You get the job done as quickly as humanly possible. There is no lingering. There is no reading the morning news. There is only the biting wind and the desire to be anywhere else. You grab the tersorium, the sponge on a stick used for wiping. It sits in a bucket of vinegar and water. The water has a layer of ice on top. You have to break the ice to get the sponge. The vinegar stings. The water is freezing. It wakes you up faster than any cup of coffee ever could. You finish and hurry back toward the centre of the camp. The smell of wood smoke is stronger now. The cooks are awake. Breakfast, you need fuel. The Roman army runs on grain, specifically wheat. You are issued a ration of grain every day, and it is up to your tent group, your contubernium, to grind it and cook it. You head to the fire pit assigned to your unit. One of your tent mates, a burly guy from Gaul named Drusus, is already there, trying to coax a flame from damp wood. He is cursing softly in a mix of Latin and his native Gallic tongue. You kneel beside him. The heat from the tiny fire is pathetic, but you lean into it anyway, warming your hands. Porridge again, you ask, though you already know the answer. Porridge, Drusus grunts, with a side of despair. It's called pulse. It is a thick beige paste made from boiled wheat, water and salt. If you were lucky enough to scavenge some herbs or maybe a bit of bacon fat, it might have flavour. Today it is just salty, hot glue. You take a bowl. It is wood, worn smooth by use. You spoon the grey sludge into your mouth. It burns your tongue, but the heat spreads into your chest, fighting the chill. It is heavy. It sits in your stomach like a stone. But it is energy. You will need it. Today you are building a wall. Not just any wall. The Emperor Hadrian has decided that the empire needs a definitive line. A massive stone barrier stretching from sea to sea, separating civilization from the barbarians. And you, a soldier trained in sword fighting and tactics, are going to spend the next 10 hours hauling rocks. You finish your porridge, you wipe the bowl with a finger and lick it clean. You stand up and stretch, your joints crack, your breath clouds. The sun is finally breaking the horizon, a pale, watery disk that offers light but no heat. A trumpet blasts, the cornu. It is a harsh, brassy sound that echoes off the frozen hills. It signals the start of the workday. You head back to the tent to get your gear. You put on your armour, larica segmentata, iron strips fastened with leather straps. The metal is freezing cold. It saps the heat right out of your tunic. You tighten the straps. The armour is heavy, weighing down on your shoulders. It restricts your movement, making you feel like a turtle trapped in a shell. But you wear it. You always wear it. Because out here in the mist, you never know when the arrows might start flying. You grab your pickaxe, you grab your shield. You march toward the wall construction site, your hobnailed sandals crunching rhythmically on the frozen earth. The The sound of thousands of men moving in unison creates a low, dull roar that competes with the wind. You aren't just walking, you are part of a living, breathing organism, the Legion. The site is chaos organised into a grid. Carts pulled by oxen are groaning under the weight of limestone blocks. You can hear the wooden axles creaking, a high-pitched scream of wood on wood that sets your teeth on edge. The oxen are massive beasts, their breath steaming in the cold air, their coats matted with mud. They look miserable. You feel a strange kinship with them. You reach your assigned section. It's a quarry pit. Your job today isn't to stack the stones, it's to dig them out. You look down into the pit. It's a gash in the earth, grey and forbidding. You climb down a wooden ladder that is slick with frost. Your hands grip the rungs tightly. If you slip, you fall onto jagged rock. You reach the bottom. It's colder here, out of the sun, in the shadow of the earth. You pick up your dalabra, a pickaxe. It's heavy iron with a wooden handle that has been smoothed by the sweat of the men who used it before you. You swing, clang. The sound of metal hitting frozen limestone rings out, sharp and jarring. It vibrates up your arms, shaking your shoulders. You swing again, clang, and again. This is your life now. You're a Roman legionary, the elite warrior of the ancient world, and you are essentially a glorified miner. You chip away at the rock, sweat beginning to bead on your forehead despite the freezing temperature. The sweat is dangerous. If you stop moving, the sweat will cool on your skin and freeze you, so you don't stop. The smell of the quarry is distinct. It smells of crushed rock, a dry, dusty scent that coats the back of your throat. It smells of damp earth and the metallic tang of iron tools. Every time you strike the rock, a puff of white dust rises, settling on your eyelashes, your armour, your lips. You taste the stone. It is gritty and chalky. Hours pass. The rhythm of the work takes over. Swing, impact, recover, swing, impact, recover. Your muscles burn. Your blisters, which had finally started to heal, break open again. You feel the wetness of blood inside your glove mixing with the sweat. Around you, men are talking. They aren't talking about glory or the emperor. They are talking about food. I heard the officers got a shipment of wine from Spain, Drusus says, swinging his pick. Probably watered down, another man replies, or vinegar. I'd drink vinegar if it was warm, Drusus grunts. You keep working. The cold seeps into your toes. You wiggle them constantly inside your boots to keep the circulation going. Numbness is the enemy. Suddenly a whistle blows. Break time. You drop the pickaxe. Your arms feel light, floating, detached from your body. You climb out of the pit. Lunch is underwhelming. Hardtack. Biscuit bread that is so dry it sucks the moisture out of your mouth. A piece of dried meat that might be beef or might be goat. You chew slowly, letting your saliva soften the bread. You look out at the landscape. The mist has lifted slightly. You can see the rolling hills of Northumbria. It is a stark, beautiful landscape. Brown heather, grey rocks, white snow patches. But it feels empty, hostile. There are no villas here, no olive groves, just wind and distance. You see a group of auxiliary cavalry riding patrol in the distance. They are locals, mostly Gauls or Germans, who have signed up to fight for Rome. They ride small, shaggy horses that seem better suited to this weather than the Roman mounts. They wear trousers, braccae. The Romans consider trousers barbaric, a sign of uncivilized people. But looking at their warm legs, you think the barbarians might be onto something. A centurion walks by. He is easy to spot. He wears a transverse crest on his helmet, a brush of horsehair that goes side to side rather than front to back. He carries a vine staff, a symbol of his authority and his favourite tool for correcting lazy soldiers. He isn't yelling right now, which is a good sign. He just walks the line, his eyes scanning the work, looking for weakness. Back to it, he barks. You groan internally, but you stand up. You pick up the pickaxe, you climb back into the pit. The afternoon shift begins. The temperature drops as the sun starts to descend. The wind picks up again, carrying sleet. It stings your face like tiny needles. You pull your scarf up over your nose, your eyes water. You are building a monument to Roman power, but right now it feels like a monument to Roman stubbornness. Why build a wall here? Why not just stop at the river? Because Rome does not stop. Rome defines the world, and to define it, It must draw a line in the stone. Finally the trumpet sounds again. The day is done. You climb out of the pit, your body aching in places you didn't know you had muscles. You are covered in grey dust. You look like a ghost. You march back to the camp. The mood is lighter now. The work is over. The men are joking, shoving each other. I'm going to win my money back tonight, Drusus says. Dice. I feel lucky. You felt lucky yesterday, you remind him, and you lost your tunic. You reach the tent. It is warm inside, or warmer than outside. The brazier has been lit. The smell of garlic and smoke welcomes you home. You take off your armour. The relief is instantaneous. Your shoulders feel 10 pounds lighter. You sit on your mat and begin to unlace your boots. But the day isn't over. You have to clean your gear. Rust is the enemy. If your armour rusts, it weakens. If it weakens, you die. So you take a rag and oil and you scrub the iron strips. The smell of oil fills the small tent. It is a clean, industrial smell. Dinner is served. More porridge. But this time, someone has thrown in some leeks they found growing near the river. It tastes green and sharp. It is delicious. You eat, huddled around the brazier with your tent mates. This is the best part of the day, the camaraderie. You're 8 men from different parts of the world. Italy, Spain, Gaul, maybe even Syria, thrown together in a leather tent in the middle of nowhere. You are a family. Drusus takes out a set of dice made from sheep knuckles. Who's playing? You watch the game for a while. The click-clack of the bones on the wooden board is hypnotic. You feel your eyelids getting heavy. The heat from the brazier is making you drowsy. You crawl under your blanket. The straw is still lumpy. The ground is still hard. But you are warm. You are fed. You are safe inside the camp walls. You close your eyes. The wind is still howling outside, battering the leather walls. Snap, snap, snap. But it can't get you. Not tonight. You drift off, dreaming of olive trees and warm wine. Let's leave the marching camp behind for a moment and travel further north, beyond the wall, into the wild territory the Romans call Caledonia. Here, survival isn't about digging ditches. It's about moving through a landscape that actively wants to kill you. You are part of a scouting party. 10 men, lightly armoured, moving fast. Your mission, see what's out there. The terrain changes. The rolling hills give way to dense ancient forests. The trees are twisted, covered in moss that hangs like old beards. The ground is a carpet of wet leaves and pine needles that muffles your footsteps. It smells of damp earth, rotting wood, and pine resin. It is a primordial smell, the scent of a forest that has never been cut. It is quiet. Too quiet. In the camp, there is always noise. Here, the silence is heavy. It presses against your ears. You can hear your own heart beating. You can hear the leather of your boots creaking. You can hear the wind sighing in the branches above. You are walking through a bog now. The ground is spongy. Every step releases a squelch of brown water. You have to watch where you put your feet. Step on the wrong patch of moss, and you could sink to your waist in freezing black mud. The cold is different here. It is wet. It soaks through your cloak, through your tunic, into your skin. It feels like the forest is trying to digest you. You pull your cloak tighter. It is heavy with rainwater. You stop to rest near a stream. The water is clear, rushing over grey stones. You cup your hands and drink. It is freezing, sharp, and tastes of minerals. It is the best water you have ever tasted. Your centurion signals. Silence. You crouch down behind a fern. You listen. A twig snaps. You grip the hilt of your gladius. The short sword is your lifeline. You don't draw it yet. The metal would flash in the light. You wait. A deer steps out of the undergrowth, a massive stag with antlers like a crown of thorns. It looks at you. Its eyes are dark, liquid, unblinking. It doesn't seem afraid. It seems curious. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. The stag turns and vanishes silently back into the trees. Good omen, the man next to you whispers. Diana is watching. You continue. The forest thins out. You reach a ridge. You look down into a valley. There is a village. It isn't a Roman town. There are no straight lines. It's a cluster of round houses with thatched roofs, surrounded by a low earthwork wall. Smoke rises from the roofs. You can see people moving, tiny figures in the distance. They are herding sheep. This is the enemy. Or at least the people you're supposed to be protecting the empire from. They don't look like monsters. They look like farmers, but you know better. You have heard the stories, the painted warriors who fight naked in the snow, the chariots that scythe through infantry lines, the druids who burn men in wicker cages. You watch them for a long time, you count the houses, you estimate the number of fighting-age men. You are a human surveillance drone. The sun begins to set. The temperature plunges. You have to find shelter. You can't light a fire, the smoke would give you away. You find a hollow under the roots of a fallen oak tree. It is dryish. You and your men pile in, huddling together like puppies. This is the reality of military operations, spooning with 9 other men in a hole in the ground to avoid freezing to death. You eat cold rations, hardtack and a piece of cheese that is harder than the bread. You chew rhythmically, staring out into the darkening forest. The night sounds begin. An owl hoots, a fox screams, a terrifying human-like shriek that makes your hair stand on end. You grip your sword again. You take the first watch. You sit at the entrance of the hollow, wrapped in your cloak, staring into the blackness. Your eyes play tricks on you. A bush becomes a crouching warrior. A swaying branch becomes a spear. You're tired. Your eyelids feel like lead. But you force them open. If you sleep, you all die. You think about Rome, the heat, the noise, the wine. It feels like a dream. A story someone told you once. This, the cold, the mud, the fear. This is the only reality. Hours pass. The moon rises, casting silver light through the trees. The forest transforms. It becomes beautiful, ethereal. The frost on the leaves glitters like diamonds. You hear a rustle, not the wind. You freeze. You listen. Steps. Soft, deliberate steps. You reach out and shake the man next to you. He wakes instantly, hand going to his weapon. You point. Shadows are moving at the edge of the clearing. 3 of them. 4. They are here. The shadows move closer. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic rhythm that seems loud enough to wake the dead. You hold your breath, your hand tightening on the hilt of your gladius until your knuckles turn white. The cold metal bites into your palm, but the shadows do not attack. They stop. They confer. You can hear the low murmur of voices, speaking a language that sounds like water flowing over stones, Gaelic, or something close to it. It is rhythmic, guttural, and unintelligible. You realize they don't know you are there. They're a hunting party, not a war band. They carry spears, but also the carcass of a deer slung between 2 men. They are passing through. You signal to your men. Stay down. The group passes within 20 feet of your hiding spot. You can smell them now, wood smoke, unwashed wool, and something earthy like peat. You can see their breath clouding in the moonlight. One of them laughs, a short, sharp bark of sound, and then they are gone, swallowed by the forest as silently as they appeared. You let out a breath that feels like it's been trapped in your lungs for an hour. The tension drains out of you, leaving you weak and shaking. This is the reality of the frontier. It isn't always a battle. Sometimes it's just watching life happen from the shadows, knowing that a single sneeze could end yours. Morning comes slowly. The light seeps into the forest, grey and reluctant. You're stiff. Every muscle in your body has locked up in the cold. You have to force yourself to move, to stretch, to get the blood flowing again. You eat the last of your hardtack. It tastes like dust. You drink from your canteen, sour wine mixed with water. It is warm from your body heat, which is both gross and comforting. You pack up. You leave no trace. You bury your waste. You scatter leaves over where you slept. The Romans are messy builders, but they are neat campers when they need to be. The march back to the wall is grueling. It is uphill through thick heather that snags your boots. The wind is in your face now, pushing you back. It feels personal, but then you see it. The wall. Even unfinished, it is impressive. A white scar cutting across the brown landscape. It is civilization made of stone. You see the smoke rising from the campfires. You see the eagles on the standards fluttering in the wind. You feel a surge of relief. It isn't home, but it is safety. You reach the gate. The guards challenge you. You give the password. Jupiter. They let you pass. You're back inside the grid. The noise hits you again. The shouting, the hammering, the marching. It feels chaotic, but it is organized chaos. It is Roman chaos. You report to the legate. He is sitting in a heated tent. a luxury reserved for the high command. He has a map spread out on a table. You point to where you saw the village. You describe the numbers. He nods, his face unreadable. "Good work," he says. "Dismissed." That's it. You risked your life, froze your toes, and almost got speared by a hunting party, and all you get is good work. But in the Legion, that is high praise. You head back to your tent. Your unit is waiting. They don't ask for details. They just hand you a bowl of hot stew. It has meat in it. Real meat. "Where did this come from?" you ask. "Don't ask," Drusus says, winking. "Just eat." You eat. The stew is rich, salty, and hot. It warms you from the inside out. You feel the life returning to your limbs. Later you go to the bathhouse. Yes, even here, in the middle of nowhere, the Legion has built a bathhouse. It is temporary, made of timber, but it has a hypocaust, underfloor heating. You strip off your filthy clothes and step into the caldarium, the hot room. The steam wraps around you. You sweat. For the first time in days, you are truly warm. You scrape the dirt off your skin with a strigil. You watch the grey sludge drip onto the floor. You're washing away the forest, the fear, the cold. You sit there for a long time, eyes closed, listening to the murmur of other soldiers. They are talking about home, about the girls they left behind in Naples, about the wine in Gaul, about the sun in Spain. You realise that everyone here is dreaming of somewhere else. The frontier is a place where you live in two worlds, the brutal reality of the present and the golden memory of the past. You step out of the bathhouse clean and pink. The cold hits you again, but it feels less aggressive now. You're fortified. You walk back to your tent under a sky filled with stars. The northern lights are dancing, green and purple ribbons rippling across the blackness. The locals call them the spirits of the dead. You call them beautiful. You crawl into your bedroll. The straw is familiar. The snoring is familiar. You're safe, for now. Let's leave the harsh frontier of Britannia and travel south, to a place where the sun is always shining, the sea is always blue, and the danger is hidden behind white marble walls. Welcome to the life of a Roman gladiator. You might think you know this story. The roar of the crowd, the emperor's thumb, the glory of combat. But Hollywood lied to you. Being a gladiator isn't about glory. It's about being a very expensive, very well-fed piece of property. Congratulations, you've woken up in the Ludus, the gladiator school, in Capua. The year is 73 BC. The good news, you're incredibly fit. The bad news, you're a slave, and your owner is currently deciding whether to sell you for a private dinner party or a public execution. You wake up in a cell. It is small, square, and stone. There is a barred window high up on the wall, letting in a shaft of dusty light. You're lying on a straw mat, but unlike the legionary's mat, this one is clean. Your owner, the Lannister, knows that a sick gladiator is a bad investment. You're an asset. You're treated better than most free men, right up until the moment they ask you to die. You stand up. Your body is a map of scars, a slash across the chest from a training sword, a puncture wound on your thigh from a trident. Each scar is a lesson you survived. You stretch, feeling the power in your muscles. You're fed a diet of barley, beans, and ash for calcium. You're bulky, strong, and terrifying. The door to your cell clanks open. A guard stands there. He doesn't look at you. He just bangs his spear against the bars. Training, he grunts. You step out into the courtyard. It is a hive of violence. Dozens of men are sparring. The sound is deafening. The clash of wood on wood. Training swords are wooden to prevent accidental death. The grunts of exertion, the shouts of the doctor, the trainer. The air smells of sweat, sawdust, and oil. Gladiators are oiled before training to make their skin harder to grip. You walk to the weapons rack. You are a Thrax, a Thracian-style fighter. You fight with a small square shield and a curved sword called a Sika. Your helmet has a griffin on the crest. It covers your entire face, leaving only 2 small eye holes. You put on the helmet, the world narrows, your peripheral vision is gone, your hearing is muffled. All you can see is what is directly in front of you. All you can hear is your own breathing, loud and ragged inside the metal shell. Your sparring partner approaches. He is a Mamillo, a fishman. He wears a heavy helmet with a fish crest, a large rectangular shield, and carries a straight sword. He's a tank. You're a wasp. The Doctor blows a whistle. You move. It isn't a chaotic brawl, it is a dance. You know exactly how he moves. He steps left, you step right. He raises his shield, you aim for the legs. You're trained to entertain, not just to kill. The crowd wants to see skill. They want to see the art. A quick sloppy kill gets you booed. A long drawn-out duel gets you cheered. You strike his shield. Thwack. The impact travels up your arm. He counters, swinging his wooden sword at your head. You duck. The wind of the swing rushes past your ear holes. You fight for an hour. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes inside the helmet. Your breath is hot and wet against the metal. Your muscles burn. But you don't stop. To stop is to show weakness. To show weakness is to invite death. Finally, the whistle blows again. You take off the helmet. The cool air hits your face. You gulp it down. Good, the doctor says. He's a scarred veteran with one ear. But keep your shield up, or you'll lose your nose. You nod. You know he's right. Lunch is barley porridge. Again. It's bland but filling. You eat it sitting in the shade with the other gladiators. You talk. Not about fighting. About food. About women. About the rumours that a rich senator is sponsoring games next week. I heard he's bringing lions, one man says. A retiarius, net fighter, named Felix. Lions are lazy, you say. They sleep all day. Not when they're starved, Felix replies darkly. You finish eating. You go to the bathhouse. Yes, the Ludus has its own bathhouse. You are scrubbed clean by slaves. You are massaged with olive oil. You are examined by a doctor who checks your pulse, your eyes, your digestion. You're treated like a prize racehorse. But then the evening comes. You're locked back in your cell. The heavy iron bolt slides home. Clunk. You lie on your mat. You stare at the ceiling. You are the strongest man in the city, but you cannot open that door. You think about the arena, the sand, the noise, the moment when you look up at the Emperor's box and wait for a signal. Thumb up, thumb down. Actually, it's usually thumb pressed for mercy and thumb turned for death, but the fear is the same. You wonder if you will die tomorrow, or next week, or next year. You wonder if anyone will remember your name. You close your eyes. You listen to the breathing of the other men in their cells. 100 killers locked in stone boxes dreaming of freedom. Somewhere in the distance a lion roars. Felix was right. They are hungry. Let's leave the gladiators to their restless sleep and step out into the streets of Rome itself, the eternal city, the centre of the world. But we aren't going to the Forum or the Senate. We are going to the Subura. The Subura is Rome's basement. It is a dense, crowded, chaotic valley nestled between the Viminal and Esquiline hills. This is where the poor live. This is where the crime happens. This is where the city truly breathes. You are walking down a narrow alley. The buildings here are insulae, apartment blocks. They rise 5, 6, sometimes 7 stories high. They are built of brick, wood, and rubble concrete. They look precarious, because they are. Landlords add floors illegally to squeeze in more tenants. Every now and then an insula collapses, burying dozens of families in a cloud of dust and tragedy. The ground floor shops are busy. A fuller's shop reeks of urine, used for bleaching togas. A bakery smells of burnt flour. A tavern spills noise onto the street. You look up. The upper floors are where the poorest live. The higher you go, the cheaper the rent and the greater the danger. If a fire starts, and fires start constantly, the people on the top floors have no escape. They are trapped between the flames and a 70-foot drop. You climb the stairs of an insula. It is dark. The air is stale. You hear coughing, crying, arguing. You reach the 3rd floor. You open a door. Inside, a family of 6 is living in a single room. There is no chimney. A small charcoal brazier provides heat, but the carbon monoxide gives everyone headaches. The walls are thin. You can hear the neighbours eating dinner. There is no running water. Water must be hauled up from the public fountain in the street. There is no toilet. You use a chamber pot and dump it into a vat at the bottom of the stairs, or out the window if you're feeling reckless. But despite the squalor, there is life. Graffiti covers the walls, insults, love poems, political slogans, drawings of gladiators. Felix the net fighter is a heartthrob scrawled in red paint. Lucius is a thief carved into the plaster. The walls talk. You leave the apartment and head back to the street. It is night now. The Subura is dangerous at night. There are no street lights. The wealthy walk with torchbearers and bodyguards. The poor walk quickly and carry knives. You hear footsteps behind you. You turn. A shadow moves. You grip your own knife. The footsteps stop. You keep walking faster now. You turn a corner and stumble upon a popina, a wine bar. It is crowded. Men are drinking cheap wine mixed with warm water. They are eating sausages and chickpeas. A woman is dancing to the sound of a flute. It is loud, raucous, and alive. This is the Rome the poets don't write about. It isn't marble, it's mud. It isn't philosophy, it's survival. You sit in the corner, nursing a cup of wine. It tastes like vinegar, but it's warm. You watch the people, a soldier on leave laughing too loud, a prostitute eyeing a potential client, a thief counting coins under the table. This is the engine of the empire. The sweat, the noise, the hunger. Without the Subura, the Senate would starve. Without the mob, the emperor would fall. You finish your wine, you step back out into the dark. The moon is hidden behind smoke from the thousands of cooking fires. The city smells of roasting meat, unwashed bodies, and impending disaster. You realize that Rome isn't a city. It's a beast. A massive, hungry, breathing beast that devours people and turns them into history. And you are just one small morsel in its belly. Let's leave the crowded streets of the Subura and travel east, far across the Mediterranean, to a place where the desert meets the river. Welcome to ancient Egypt, but not the Egypt of the pharaohs and the pyramids. We are going to the workers' village of Deir el-Medina. You wake up. It is hot. Not the pleasant warmth of a spring day, but a dry, oven-like heat that sucks the moisture right out of your skin. It is 5 a.m. The sun is just cresting over the eastern cliffs, painting the limestone in shades of pink and gold. You are not a slave. You are a royal artisan. You live in a village specially built for the men who construct the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. You are elite. You are literate. You are paid in grain, oil, and beer. But your job is grueling. You get out of bed. Your house is small, made of mud bricks painted white to reflect the sun. The floor is packed earth. You share it with your wife and children. You eat a breakfast of bread and figs. The figs are sweet, sticky, and full of energy. You grab your tools, a copper chisel, a wooden mallet, a lamp with a wick floating in oil and salt. The salt stops the flame from smoking and ruining the tomb paintings. You walk out of the village. The path to the Valley of the Kings is steep. You climb the ridge, the sun beating down on your back. There is no shade. The landscape is barren, just rock, dust, and sky. You reach the tomb site. It is a hole in the cliff face. You climb down. Inside, it is cool and dark. You light your lamp. The flame flickers, casting long shadows on the unfinished walls. Your job is to carve the afterlife. You're cutting a corridor deep into the bedrock. The air is filled with limestone dust. You tie a linen cloth around your face to breathe. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of copper on stone is rhythmic, hypnotic. You're creating a universe. You carve hieroglyphs, spells to guide the pharaoh's soul past demons and gatekeepers. You carve images of gods, Osiris, Anubis, Ra. You are not just a worker, you are a magician of stone. But it is dangerous work. The air is stale, rockfalls are common, and the scorpions, not the insects but the royal guards, watch you constantly. They aren't protecting you. They are protecting the gold that will eventually be buried here. You take a break at midday. You sit in the shadow of a rock and drink beer from a clay jar. You talk with the other artisans. You complain about the vizier, the prime minister, who is late with the grain rations again. In fact, you and your colleagues are about to do something revolutionary. You are going to stage the first recorded strike in history. "We are hungry," a man named Panabi says. He is a troublemaker, but he is right. "The granaries are full, but our sacks are empty." "We stop working," you say. "We sit down," Panabi agrees. And you do. You walk to the mortuary temple of Thutmose III and you sit down. You refuse to move. The officials are terrified. They have never seen this before. Workers don't strike, they obey. But you are royal artisans. You know your worth. If you don't build the tomb, the pharaoh doesn't get to the afterlife. And that is a spiritual crisis. They pay you. It takes a few days of shouting and negotiation, but they deliver the grain. You have won. You go back to work. The chisel bites into the stone. You carve a scarab beetle, the symbol of rebirth. The sun sets. You walk back over the ridge to the village. The stars are coming out. The desert cools rapidly. You reach your home. Your wife has cooked a stew of lentils and fish. You eat on the roof, enjoying the cool night air. You look up at the Milky Way, the celestial Nile where the gods sail their boats. You are tired. Your hands are calloused. Your lungs are full of dust. But you have left a mark. Thousands of years from now, people will look at your carvings and marvel. They won't know your name, but they will see your work. You are the hands that built eternity. Let's leave the dusty heat of Egypt and jump forward in time, but north in geography. We're going to the deck of a Viking longship in the middle of the North Sea. The year is 865 AD. You're not a king, you're not a jarl, you're a carl, a free man, a farmer who has decided to go a Viking for the summer to earn some silver. The sea is grey and angry. The waves are 10 feet high, rolling mountains of water that lift the ship up and smash it back down. Crash, splash. Cold salt water sprays over the side, soaking you to the bone. You're sitting on your sea chest, rowing. The oar is heavy, slick with water. Your muscles scream with every pull. Heave, ho, heave, ho. The rhythm is set by the steersman. If you miss a stroke, the oar handle hits you in the chest, or worse, you tangle with the man behind you. There is no shelter. The ship is open to the sky. If it rains, you get wet. If it snows, you get cold. If the sun shines, you get burned. You sleep right where you sit, curled up in a fur cloak that smells of wet dog. The smell of the ship is a mix of tar, salt, unwashed men, and fear. Yes, fear. The ocean is terrifying. The Vikings are famous sailors, but they know the sea is a monster. There are no maps. You navigate by the sun, the stars, the flight of birds, and the colour of the water. If a storm hits, you pray to Thor and bail water with a bucket. You are hungry. The food is dried fish, stockfish, and hard bread. The water in the barrels is starting to taste green, but then the shout goes up. Land. A dark line on the horizon. England. The mood changes instantly. Exhaustion vanishes, replaced by adrenaline. You pull harder on the oars. The ship cuts through the water like a knife. You reach the shore. It is a sandy beach near a monastery. You jump out into the surf, the water freezing around your waist. You help drag the ship up onto the sand. You grab your axe. You put on your helmet. No horns, obviously. Horns are just handles for the enemy to grab. You form a shield wall with your brothers. The monks are running. They are not warriors. This is not a battle. It is a raid. You're here for the silver crosses, the gold chalices, the fine cloth. You feel a twinge of guilt. Maybe. But back home your farm is rocky and the winters are long. This silver will buy grain. It will buy a better cow. It will keep your family alive. You smash open the monastery doors. The smell of incense meets the smell of the sea. You grab a candlestick. It is heavy, solid gold. You grin. You are a Viking, a pirate, a survivor, and tonight you will feast. Let's leave the raid and jump to a place where silence is mandatory and speaking is a sin. Welcome to a medieval monastery, but not the library. We're going to the kitchen. It is 4 a.m. You are a lay brother. You're not a choir monk who sings in Latin. You are the muscle that keeps the abbey running. The kitchen is a cavernous stone room dominated by a fireplace large enough to roast an ox. The fire is already roaring. Your job is to feed 50 monks who have been fasting since yesterday. You are kneading dough. It is a massive mound of flour and water. You punch it, fold it, punch it again. Your arms are covered in flour. Sweat drips from your nose. It is hard physical labour. The menu today is beans. Again, beans boiled with onions and herbs. Maybe a bit of salted fish if it's a feast day. The rule of St. Benedict forbids the eating of flesh meat, four-legged animals, for healthy monks. So, no bacon, no steak, just endless bowls of legumes. But monks are clever. They have loopholes. The rule says no meat in the refectory, dining hall. So they built a second dining hall called the Misericorde, the Room of Mercy, where meat is allowed. Technically, they are following the rules. Spiritually, it's debatable. You stir the cauldron with a ladle the size of a shovel. The steam rises, smelling of sage and boiled cabbage. It isn't gourmet, but it is hot. You hear the bell ring for prime. The monks are filing into the church. You can hear the distant chanting, Kyrie Eleison. It is beautiful. It makes the drudgery feel holy. But you also know the secrets. You know which monk sneaks into the pantry to steal cheese. You know which monk drinks too much wine. You know that the abbot is arguing with the local bishop over land rights. The monastery looks serene from the outside, but inside it is a hotbed of politics. You ladle the beans into wooden bowls. You cut the bread. You pour the ale. The monks file in. They eat in silence. One monk reads from the Bible while the others chew. The only sounds are the scraping of spoons and the drone of the reader. You watch them eat. You're tired. Your back hurts. but you are part of something bigger. You're feeding the men who pray for the world. If they don't eat, they can't pray. If they don't pray, the world might end. So, in a way, you are saving the world with beans. Let's leave the quiet rhythm of the monastery and travel to a place of noise, smoke, and sheer mechanical power. Welcome to a medieval castle, under siege. But you aren't a knight on the walls. You're a siege engineer, and you have just built a trebuchet. It is a monster of oak and iron standing 40 feet tall. It looks like a giant skeletal bird. It works on the principle of a counterweight. A massive box filled with rocks hangs on one end of a long beam. A sling holding the projectile hangs on the other. You're winching it down. Crank, crank, crank. It takes a team of 12 men to pull the beam down. The tension in the ropes is terrifying. If a rope snaps, it will cut a man in half. The air smells of tension. The defenders on the castle walls are watching you. They are shooting arrows, but you are out of range. You are the artillery. Load, you shout. Your men roll a massive stone ball into the sling. Or if the commander is feeling particularly nasty, a dead horse, biological warfare, or a barrel of Greek fire, napalm. You check the trigger mechanism. It is a simple iron pin. You hold the mallet. Loose. You strike the pin. Whoosh. The counterweight drops. The beam swings up. The sling whips around at incredible speed. The stone is launched into the sky. It arcs gracefully, a deadly meteor. Crash. It hits the curtain wall. Stone shatters. Dust rises. A cheer goes up from the camp, but you don't cheer. You calculate. Too high, you mutter. Adjust the weight. You are a mathematician of destruction. You know about trajectory, velocity, and impact force. You are the most valuable man in the army. If the castle falls, it is because of your math. But it is slow work. Reloading takes 20 minutes. You do this all day. Your hands are blistered from the ropes. Your ears are ringing from the impacts. Night falls. The siege continues. You can't launch in the dark, so you sit by the fire. You look at the castle. It is a silhouette against the stars. Torches flicker on the battlements. You wonder about the people inside. Are they starving? Are they terrified? You are starving them. You are terrifying them. It is your job. War isn't about glory. It's about geometry. And you are winning. Let's leave the battlefield and go somewhere that smells worse, if that's possible. Let's go to the tannery. You are a tanner, and you live in the part of the city everyone avoids. Why? Because tanning leather is essentially the art of controlled rotting. You have a pile of cowhides. They are stiff, bloody, and covered in hair. Your job is to turn this biological waste into smooth, flexible leather for shoes, belts, and saddles. Step 1. Soaking. You throw the hides into vats of water to clean them. The water turns brown and foul. Step 2. Liming. You need to get the hair off, so you soak the hides in a mixture of lime and water. This burns the hair follicles. But lime is expensive, so sometimes you use stale urine. Yes, urine. The ammonia breaks down the proteins. You buy buckets of pee from the neighbours. Pecunia non olet. Money doesn't stink, the Roman Emperor Vespasian said. He was wrong. It definitely stinks. Step 3. Baiting. This is the worst part. To make the leather soft, you need enzymes. Where do you get enzymes? Dog poop or pigeon poop. You rub a paste of manure into the hides. You stand in the vat barefoot, stomping the skins into the poop mixture. The smell is indescribable. It is a mix of death, ammonia, and excrement. It clings to your skin. It clings to your clothes. You can't wash it off. People cross the street when they see you coming. You are a social pariah. But you are rich. Everyone needs leather. The knight needs a saddle. The monk needs a book cover. The peasant needs shoes. You are the essential link in the medieval economy. You pull a hide out of the vat. It is smooth, pale, and flexible. You rinse it. You stretch it on a frame. You look at your hands. They are stained brown. Your fingernails are yellow. But you touch the leather. It is beautiful. It is durable. It will outlast the cow, and it might even outlast you. You are an alchemist. You turn filth into gold. Let's leave the stench of the tannery and walk into the warm, yeasty air of the medieval bakery. It is 2 a.m. while the rest of the city sleeps or tries to. You are awake. The bakery is hot. The ovens are massive brick caves, glowing with the embers of wood fires. You are a master baker, but you are also a suspect. Everyone thinks bakers are cheats. They think you use chalk instead of flour. They think you make the loaves smaller than the law allows, so you are watched. The size of bread dictates the price and weight of every loaf based on the price of wheat. If you cheat, you get dragged through the streets on a hurdle with a mouldy loaf tied around your neck. It's a tough industry. You mix the dough, flour, water, yeast from the brewer next door, and salt. You knead it. Your arms are massive. You shape the loaves. The manchet is the finest white bread for the rich. The cheat is whole wheat. The tourt is the coarse brown bread for the commoners. You use a peel, a long wooden shovel, to slide the loaves into the oven. You have to judge the temperature by feeling the heat on your face. Too hot, the crust burns. Too cool, the inside is doughy. You also bake other things. People don't have ovens in their homes. So they bring you their pies, their meats, their stews. You charge a penny to cook their dinner. You are the community microwave. But there is a dark side. Ergot. It's a fungus that grows on rye in damp weather. If you bake it into bread, it causes hallucinations, convulsions, and gangrene. It's called St. Anthony's fire. You have to check the grain carefully. If you poison the village, they will burn your bakery down. The smell of fresh bread fills the street. It is the best smell in the world. People start lining up before dawn. You pull a loaf from the oven. You tap the bottom. It sounds hollow. Perfect. You slice a piece for yourself. It is hot, soft, and steaming. You eat it with a bit of butter. It is simple, but it is life. You wipe the flour from your face. The sun is rising. The city is waking up to eat what you made. You are tired, but you are essential. Let's leave the warmth of the bakery and step into the most dangerous room in the medieval world, the bedroom of a woman giving birth. In the Middle Ages, childbirth is not a medical event. It is a battlefield. It is the leading cause of death for young women. You enter the lying-in chamber. The windows are sealed shut. The fire is roaring. It is incredibly hot. The air is thick with the scent of herbs, mugwort, lavender, and rose. Men are banned. This is a female space. The midwife is in charge. She's not a doctor, but she has seen more life and death than any university-trained physician. She carries a birthing stool, oils, and charms. The mother is labouring. She's holding onto a rope tied to the ceiling beam. She's praying to St. Margaret, who was swallowed by a dragon and burst out of its belly, the patron saint of childbirth. If things go wrong, the options are limited. The midwife might try to turn the baby. She might use sneezing powder to force the baby out, don't ask. Or in the worst case, she will perform a baptism in the womb to save the baby's soul, because the mother cannot be saved. But today things go right. A cry. A thin, reedy wail. The baby is born. The midwife cuts the cord. She washes the baby in warm wine and wraps it tightly in swaddling bands. The logic is that babies are soft and malleable. If you don't wrap them tight, their limbs might grow crooked. The baby looks like a tiny, angry mummy. The mother collapses back onto the bed. She's exhausted, but alive. She will stay in bed for weeks, lying in, until she is churched, a purification ceremony. The room exhales, the tension breaks, wine is poured for the midwife and the gossipers. You look at the baby. It is tiny. It faces a world of plague, war, and famine. But right now, it is safe. It is loved. It is the future. Life has won. Let's leave the lying-in chamber and step into a place that is loud, colourful, and surprisingly organised. The medieval fair. Fairs aren't just markets. They are temporary cities. They happen once a year, usually on a saint's day. Merchants come from across the sea. You hear languages you don't understand, Flemish, Italian, Arabic. You walk through the rows of stalls. It is a sensory overload. There is a stall selling silk from Damascus. It shimmers in the sunlight. You have never seen anything so blue. There is a stall selling furs from Russia. They are soft and thick. There is a stall selling relics. The finger bone of St. Peter. It looks suspiciously like a chicken bone, but you don't say anything. There are laws here. The pea-powder court, pieds poudrés, dusty feet, settles disputes instantly. If a merchant cheats you, you drag him to the court, the judge hears the case, and the merchant is in the stocks by lunch. Justice moves at the speed of commerce. You see a juggler tossing knives. You see a bear dancing. You see a man swallowing fire. But the most important thing is the news. The fair is the internet of the Middle Ages. The king is raising an army. The plague is in Florence. The price of wool is up. You listen. You learn. You buy a ribbon for your wife. It costs a penny. It is bright red. It is a tiny piece of luxury. You eat a hot pippin. roasted apple. You drink spiced wine. The sun sets. Lanterns are lit. The fair becomes a city of light. People are dancing. You realize that the medieval world isn't just about survival. It is about connection, about trade, about the strange, beautiful things people make and do. You walk home with your ribbon. You feel part of a larger world. Let's leave the noise of the fair and head somewhere quieter but far more intense, the scriptorium of a remote monastery. This is where knowledge lives. Outside, the world is illiterate. Inside, it is a fortress of words. You are a monk. Your name is Brother Thomas. You have been awake since 2 a.m. for matins. You have eaten nothing but bread and water, and now you're going to spend the next 8 hours copying the Gospel of John. The scriptorium is freezing. The abbot won't allow a fire because sparks destroy parchment. Your fingers are stiff. You rub them together to warm them up. You pick up your quill. Parchment is unforgiving. If you press too hard, the ink splatters. If you press too light, the letters fade. You have to find the perfect rhythm. Scratch, scratch, dip. You are copying a text from the 4th century. You're literally holding the past in your hands. If you make a mistake, you don't just ruin a page, you insult God. The silence is absolute. 50 men are working, but the only sound is the scratching of quills and the occasional sigh of frustration. But you aren't just a copier, you're an artist. You're working on an illuminated capital I. You paint it with lapis lazuli, crushed into a fine powder and mixed with egg yolk. The blue is so deep it looks like a piece of the night sky. You add gold leaf. You burnish it with a dog's tooth until it shines like a mirror. In the margin, you draw a little dragon. Why? Because you are bored, and because dragons are cool. You look out the window. The sun is setting over the mountains. The world is changing. Wars are fought. Kings die. But inside this room, time stands still. You're preserving the light of civilization, one letter at a time. You finish the page. You sprinkle sand on the wet ink. You close the book. You are tired. Your back aches. Your eyes burn. But you have done something permanent. You have built a cathedral of words. Let's leave the scriptorium and step into the most feared building in the medieval world, the leper hospital. It is located outside the city walls. Lepers are the living dead. They are legally dead. When you're diagnosed with leprosy, a priest reads the burial service over you. You lose your property, your family, your rights. You are given a clapper, a wooden noisemaker, to warn people you're coming. You enter the hospital. It smells of sickness, but also of clean linen and herbs. It is run by the Order of St. Lazarus. These knights and monks care for the outcasts. The patients are disfigured. Their faces are ravaged. Their hands are clawed. But they are not monsters. They are people. They play chess. They weave baskets. They pray. You see a woman feeding a man who has lost his hands. It is a moment of profound tenderness. Society rejects them, but the hospital accepts them. It is a sanctuary. You realize that medieval charity is not just about giving money. It is about touching the untouchable. It is about seeing the human beneath the disease. You walk out. The fresh air hits you. You hear the sound of a leper's clapper in the distance. Clack, clack, it is a lonely sound. But inside the hospital there is community. Even in the shadow of death, life finds a way to be together. Let's leave the hospital and step into the forest. Not the royal hunting forest, but the deep wild wood where the king's law grows thin. You are a charcoal burner. You live here, in a hut made of branches and turf. Your face is permanently blackened with soot. You are the invisible man of the medieval economy. The forest is alive. It isn't just trees, it is a resource. You see coppiced hazels, trees cut low so they grow straight, flexible poles for fencing. You see pannage, pigs rooting for acorns under the oaks. Your job is to make charcoal. You build a massive stack of wood, cover it with earth, and set it on fire. But you don't let it burn. You let it smoulder. You have to watch it for days. If it burns too hot, you get ash. If it burns too cool, you get wood. You need carbon. The smoke is thick and acrid. It coats your lungs. But charcoal is essential. The blacksmith needs it to forge steel. The armourer needs it to make swords. The city needs it to cook food. You're alone, but you aren't lonely. The forest has its own company. You hear the bark of a fox. You see a badger trundling through the undergrowth. You know where the deer sleep. But there is danger. Outlaws. Men who have fled the law and live in the greenwood. They might steal your bread, or they might share their venison. It's a gamble. Night falls. The forest becomes a wall of black. You sit by your kiln, watching the blue smoke curl up into the stars. You are free. You have no lord. You have no taxes. You just have the fire and the trees. You wrap yourself in your cloak. The earth is warm from the kiln. You sleep, dreaming of smoke and silence. Let's leave the forest and step onto the most dangerous place in the medieval world, the battlefield. You're not a knight. You're a longbowman. You're standing in a muddy field in France. The year is 1415. The battle is Agincourt. You're wearing a simple leather jerkin. You have no armour on your legs because you need to move fast. You have planted a sharpened stake in the ground in front of you to stop the cavalry. The enemy is charging, French knights in full plate armour. They look like steel monsters. Their horses are massive. The ground shakes. Thud, thud, thud. You are terrified. But you have a job to do. You draw your bow. It is made of yew. It has a draw weight of 120 pounds. It takes a lifetime of training to pull it. Your back muscles are like steel cables. Loose! You release. The arrow flies. It joins thousands of others. The sky turns black. It sounds like a swarm of angry bees. Thwack! The arrows hit the knights. They punch through armour, they hit horses, the charge falters, the mud churns. It isn't glory. It is slaughter. It is mud and blood and screaming. The battle ends. You are alive. You walk through the field. You see a knight lying in the mud, unable to get up because his armour is too heavy. You could kill him, but he is worth money. You take him prisoner. You will ransom him. You sit by the fire that night. You eat your rations. You're tired, but you know something the knights don't. The age of chivalry is dying. The age of the common soldier is beginning, and you are holding the weapon that changed the world. Let's leave the battlefield and go to the place where all journeys end, the inn. Not the tavern where you just drink, the inn where you sleep. You are a pilgrim, exhausted from walking to Canterbury. You have money, but not enough for a private room. You enter the common room. It is packed. There are merchants, soldiers, monks, and a juggler with a very tired dog. The floor is covered in rushes that haven't been changed since Christmas. You pay for a spot in a bed. Not a whole bed. A spot. You're sharing with two other strangers. One is a miller who smells of flour. The other is a clerk who clutches his satchel like it holds the crown jewels. You take off your boots. The relief is indescribable. You eat a bowl of pottage that is mostly onions. You drink ale that tastes like liquid bread. You listen to the stories. The miller talks about the price of grain. The clerk talks about a lawsuit in London. The soldier talks about the war in France. You realise that the inn is the crossroads of the world. It is where news travels. It is where classes mix. For one night, you are all just travellers, tired and hungry. You climb into the bed. The mattress is lumpy. The clerk snores. The miller kicks in his sleep. But you are warm. You are dry. You are safe. You close your eyes. The noise of the inn fades into a comforting hum. You drift off, dreaming of the shrine at the end of the road. Let's leave the warmth of the inn and step out into the street. The sun has long since vanished. The city is transforming. It is becoming a different creature entirely. You hear a bell tolling. It is deep, rhythmic, and commanding. This is the curfew bell. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu, cover the fire. It is not a suggestion. It is a law. It tells you to bank your hearth, cover the embers with an ash lid, and go to bed. Why? Because fire is the city's greatest predator. A spark in the night can turn a timber-framed neighbourhood into a chimney. The curfew is the city trying to save itself from burning down in its sleep. You walk quickly. The streets are vanishing. In the modern world, night is just day with the lights turned down. In the medieval city, night is a physical weight. It is an ocean of ink. There are no street lamps. There is no ambient glow from the clouds. Unless there is a moon, you cannot see your hand in front of your face. This darkness is terrifying. It is where the rules of civilization break down. It is the domain of night walkers, not zombies, but people who have no good reason to be out. Thieves, assassins, lovers, and spirits. If the watch catches you, you will be arrested. You see a bobbing light in the distance. A lantern. It is the watch. The watchmen are not elite police officers. They are your neighbours, the baker, the cobbler, the weaver, doing their mandatory unpaid civic duty. They are cold, they are bored, and they are likely terrified. They carry billhooks, poles with a hooked blade, and they huddle together for warmth. Their job is to shout, "Who goes there?" and hope the answer isn't a gang of armed mercenaries. You press yourself into a doorway to let them pass. You don't want to be questioned. You don't want to explain why you're out so late. You are invisible. You reach your home. You slide the heavy iron key into the lock. Click. You push the door open and slip inside. The air in the house is still, but it holds the heat of the day's cooking. You slide the bolt shut. Thunk. You drop the wooden bar across the door. You are sealing yourself in. The medieval home is a fortress. At night, the world outside is an enemy. You move to the hearth. The fire is low. You rake the ashes over the glowing coals. The light dies. The room plunges into shadow. Now, you must navigate by memory. You know where the table is. You know where the stool is. You feel your way to the ladder or the stairs that lead to the solar, the sleeping room. It is freezing up here. Heat rises, but it also escapes through the draughty roof. You strip off your outer clothes, the wool tunic, the hose. You stand in your linen shift, shivering. You put on your nightcap. This isn't a fashion statement. It is a medical necessity. Medieval doctors believe you lose heat through your head, and that cold air entering your ears can cause illness or even madness. So you tie the linen cap tight under your chin. You look ridiculous, but you feel safe. You climb into the bed. The straw mattress rustles. It has a valley in the centre where the bodies naturally roll together. You huddle against your spouse, your children. You're a pile of humanity seeking warmth. You lie there, eyes open in the dark. The silence is not empty. You hear the house settling, the timber frame groaning like a ship at sea. You hear the wind in the chimney. You hear the scratch of a mouse in the thatch, and then you hear the watchman cry out in the street below. 10 o'clock and a clear night. It is a comforting sound. It tells you that someone is awake. Someone is guarding the herd. You're tired. Your body aches from the walking, the working, the living, but you are safe. The door is barred. The fire is covered. The night belongs to the ghosts, but the house belongs to you. Let's take a moment here in the dark to think about the people who aren't sleeping, the people who make the medieval city function while you dream. We already met the watchman shivering on street corners, but there are others. There is the gong farmer. He works only at night. His job is to empty the cesspits, the deep, stone-lined holes under the privies. By law, he cannot work during the day because the smell is too offensive. He drives a cart through the silent streets, shoveling waste by the light of a lantern. He's paid well because no one else will do it. He's the invisible sanitation department. There is the baker. He's already awake. He has to be. Dough takes time to rise. He's firing the oven, measuring the flour, sweating in the heat while the rest of the city freezes. By the time you wake up, his bread will be cooling on the rack. There is the monk. He wakes up at midnight for matins. He leaves his warmish cell and walks into the freezing church to chant. He is praying for you. He believes his prayers keep the devil at bay. He is the spiritual night shift. There is the midwife. She has been called out to a birth. She hurries through the dark streets with a bag of herbs, guided by a servant with a torch. She is fighting death in a candlelit room. And there is the thief. He is working too. He is testing doors, cutting purses, climbing walls. He is the shadow that makes you lock your door. The city never truly stops. It just changes shifts. The daylight world of commerce gives way to the night world of maintenance, prayer, and crime. You listen to the rhythm of the house. Your breathing slows. The day's worries, the money, the food, the mud, begin to fade. They will be there tomorrow, but for now, they are suspended. You think about the stars above the roof. They are the same stars we see today. They looked down on the Romans, the Vikings, the Tudors. They look down on you. They are the only thing that hasn't changed. You feel a sense of peace. You have survived another day in history. You have eaten, you have worked, you have found shelter. In the grand scheme of things, that is a victory. Your eyelids are heavy. The darkness wraps around you like a heavy wool cloak. It is time to let go. The darkness deepens. The silence stretches out, filling the room, the house, the street. The frantic energy of the medieval city has finally dissolved into the heavy, restful quiet of the deep night. You're no longer fighting the cold. Your body heat has created a warm pocket under the blankets. The scratchy wool has softened against your skin. The hard straw mattress has moulded to your shape. You let your mind drift away from the details. The smells fade. The noise fades. The fear of the plague, the tax collector, and the fire fades. They are tomorrow's problems. Tonight there is only sleep. You think about the people you saw today, the butcher with his bloody apron, the monk with his ink-stained fingers, the noble on his high horse, the beggar at the gate. They are all sleeping now too. The city has equalized them. In sleep there are no kings and no serfs. There are only dreamers. You realize that this life, this hard, dirty, dangerous medieval life, is also full of moments of unexpected grace. The taste of hot bread, the warmth of the sun after a rainstorm, the sound of a flute in the distance, the feeling of belonging to a community that struggles together. It is a life stripped of excess. There is no noise of machines, no glare of screens, no constant buzz of information. There is just the earth, the sky, and the people around you. It is simple, it is brutal, but it is real. Your breathing deepens, your heart rate slows, you're drifting on the edge of consciousness. The boundary between the room and your dreams begins to blur. You're walking through a forest, but it isn't scary. The trees are tall and protective. The path is clear. You're walking toward a light. The city is gone. The walls are gone. You're floating in a space of pure quiet. You're safe. You're warm. You're resting. The fire in the hearth has finally burned down to a pile of grey ash. The last ember winks out, leaving the room in total darkness. The house is still. The city is still. Even the watchmen have stopped shouting. The medieval world has paused. The struggle for survival has been suspended for a few precious hours. The mud, the noise, the smells, they have all receded into the background, waiting for the sun to bring them back to life. But you don't have to worry about the sun. You don't have to worry about the morning bell, because you are no longer there. You feel the mattress beneath you change. The lumpy straw smooths out, becoming soft and supportive. The scratchy wool blanket transforms into clean, cool cotton. The smell of wood smoke and damp earth fades, replaced by fresh air. You're back in your own bed. You're back in the present. The dangers of the past are gone. You're safe. You have walked the streets of history. You have seen the beauty and the horror. You have lived the life of an ancestor you will never know. But now your journey is done. The city gates are closed. The drawbridge is up. Let the images fade. Let the sounds drift away. Let the weight of the past lift from your shoulders. You are here. You are now. You are at peace. Sleep well. The past will always be there, waiting in the shadows. But tonight, the night belongs to you. Good night.